to make it easier for Lydia to cut up into an actual interview for us later.
Who's Lydia?
Lydia is
like
Miracle Prawn. You possibly know Miracle Prawn from the name Miracle Prawn.
Yes,
I think she's been in your streams a couple of times, but she's referred to as Mod Almighty. She's my mod who became my editor for the sake of the mental health marathon, because there was no way I was ever going to go back through 30 hours of my own content. I don't even go back through 30 minutes of my own content. That's the problem with me. I'm like, I said it already. I don't need to hear it again.
Do you know what? It sounds bad, but you're right, because you're trying to think of the next thing. And I had Claire's line. Claire is my mod, who's the same. She's the Clipmaster Claire, who's also the Thunderhammer. So I totally understand that. I think you got like, oh, hail the mod, says Evil Auntie in the chat. Yeah. But I think that it's good that we're quite lucky to have people like that. And it's especially as our attention span will not last long enough to go back. And
I think that's it. You know, both you and have you got diagnosed ADHD now?
No, I'm like halfway through it, but the psychiatrist says, yeah. It's like I've got two things. So I've got a psychologist and a psychiatrist for two different things now, and it looks like, so what they did is they misdiagnosed what I have as bipolar, because at the time they didn't have adult ADHD, it wasn't a thing, and they said it's probably that. And then they were like, why isn't anything working? Why can't you fix it? And I was like, look, I'm just going to tolerate things, and I'm going to work on my own coping mechanisms. And like when I started streaming, people were like, it doesn't appear to be, it looks like you're very ADHD. You might want to get that checked out. And I did. And my psychiatrist was like, yeah, that's very, very, very ticking off all the boxes. You know, when you get the two, oh my God, it took me a month to fill out the bloody form because they sent it to me. Okay, you're gonna relate to this. Sorry, I talked too much, but you're gonna relate to this, Dave. They sent me the form to fill in, and it's 3 sheets, which is 2 sheets to fill in and a sheet to score yourself. But there was 2 empty sheets because they'd scanned it in, and they were all bad quality because they'd obviously photocopied it or scanned it in. And the 3rd sheet was off center when they'd scanned it in, so I couldn't fill that in. No bloody way I was filling in that joke of a scan. So I went looking through the internet for the real one, and then I downloaded that. It took me a month to finally get it, so I kept procrastinating to put it off. Downloaded that, filled that in, scanned it properly, and then also sent an empty copy to them to say, please, if you're going to diagnose someone with ADHD, send them this, because otherwise you're just going to get, like, I couldn't start on that. That was a mess. You can't.
And they were like, well, actually, that was the test.
That's what I said. I said when I sent it to my what's it called? Therapist. Come on, bloody hell. What's the thing in the middle where they act as your in between? And like job therapist, but it's not job therapist.
Occupational therapist.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Occupational therapist. I was like, was this the test? Was this the test? She was like, no, I don't know, because she's very Chikai. She's very not. She's very businessy. She's not very. I'm always making jokes, and she's always very busy. She was like, "No, you're supposed to fill it in." I was like, "Well, then send this one to future people." But yeah, so yeah, mostly of the way. Part of the way through it. So I don't know how long it's going to take, because apparently it takes bloody ages. But they've said just start acting like you are. So,
well, yeah. Well, what does that mean? Acting like, I mean, I already do act like I am. That's the problem. It's like, I think by that they mean to work with the coping strategies of it. Because the reason I'm really keen to actually get mine processed now is because historically, it's that question: how much does this impact your work?
Yeah,
and I know, and now I've always had it as my alternation between I'm hyper focused and I'm totally not focused. That's always been in line with where my mood was. But the question is, which one caused which? You know, like when I'm manic, then I'm like creativity, bam, 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 all over the place. Now. Yeah. And when I'm depressed, it's like every idea I think, I just put it through the filter and say this is a shit idea, and it's let's just get rid of that. And that never used to impact. That'd impact my side projects more than my main projects. But the last year, all of my side projects became my main projects. So like streaming's now a much bigger part of my job than it was.
It's my job.
Know, yeah, it's I went and did my day job for the first time in forever yesterday. It was great, but it's and I've literally just kind of signed up to have a day of the week, basically, where I'm working for the NHS, which I'm that day now. I'm just like, yes, they're going to tell me what to do, and then all I have to do is just do it. And it's neat, it's simple, it's easy. Yeah. And then yesterday, my partner who I'm working with on it was just like, so yeah, what ideas have you got for what we're going to do with these days then? And I was like, no. I'm like, no, you lot need to tell me the ideas. I'm like, look, book me on talks, send me into schools. Just add, like, even if you're sending me to 3 schools in a day, I don't care. Just don't make me sit in an office and come up with ideas for you lot, because I spend the other 4 days of the week sitting in an office trying to come up with ideas for myself. And when that's going great, it's going great. And that's the reason why I want to get my assessment now, because I can't get things done. Like I'm having days now. And they're getting more frequent because obviously you pay attention to them, and then it's like it's like being,
it's a spiral.
Yeah, it's like and the only good thing now is I have a little bit more mindset by Dave inside my own head that counteracts some of it. But this last 8 months, particularly the first. Going into lockdown, it was just like new project, dead easy, got all the momentum, got all the energy. This is new, it's exciting. The first 4 or 5 months just flew by. And I was like, oh, this is it, I've found it now. This is what I've been looking for forever. And then it's like, oh, what if I don't want to turn up today? What if I don't feel like I've got anything important to say today? Am I hitting too many nerves here, Chris?
No, that's a bloody mood, isn't it? That's a bloody mood. Rez and Evil Artie will tell you, because I say it in my streams, but I also say it on our Discord, is that I change my streams so often because something will be working. It'll be like, hey, this is a really good idea. And I'll have 30, 40 people show up, and I'll be like, that was a great stream. What a great stream that was. I'll do it again next week. I'll do it again the week after, 10 people. And then that's it, dead forever. And all it means, it doesn't mean I had a bad stream. It just means, all it means is that someone's busy. Yeah. The football's on. It's a sunny day. Whatever it means, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. But I'm like, bin it. It's dead to me. It's dead to me. So like this week, we're supposed to be doing the field trip, because the field trips we do every Wednesday.
That's been nice and consistent.
That is about to change. That
you've had the field trips since I met you.
The field trips, but I'm going to keep doing them. It's just this Wednesday I am taking. I've done so many that I've run it out of places that I know anything about. You know, I've not been to that many places. So we're doing a drawing stream. So I'm drawing Transformers. But I went out. You're probably the same. I went out and bought art supplies just from the works, because as soon as I've got a project. By it all, he says, sitting in front of his MIDI controller, he's only touched twice. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you just get, as soon as it dies, one time is all it needs to do to be bad. And I'm like, I think you've set up with a nice formula now. They go, oh yeah, and I changed my time as well, because I was at 11 and I'm now at midday, because.
At the same time, though, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you are probably the same to me. That as soon as one really pops, you're like, "This is it. This is the one." And and my wife's been telling me off for this recently. She's like, "Look, seriously, you just set yourself up for it." I'm like, "But do you ever want me to get to this point where I'm actually never excited anymore that something could pop off?" But in terms of buying art supplies, right? So. I was also kind of told by Claire and a few others not to bring up TikTok around you. But
why?
Well, I don't know. That was all I was told. I wasn't given the context. But I've literally just started this whole the Mindalorian on TikTok, right?
I saw you come up with that idea on Twitter, where you said it, and then the next tweet was, "This is a thing," and then it just gained like.
Oh no, it was in slightly reverse order than that. You know, I think that's probably the order you've seen the tweets. So like, I came up with the idea. Probably in January when I watched The Mandalorian, because I changed one letter in my head. I'm like, ooh, that's smart. Yeah. And I, conveniently happen to own a Boba Fett helmet. Yeah. So, and I've got voice mod, and that's all you need. All of that plus a little bit of material, right? Yeah. And I got so fed up with my content. Like, I'd not put anything out for like a week and a half. And when I've not put anything out for a week and a half, that's the point where I'm like, That's it. I'm not a creator anymore. And I was just like...
Jobs.co.uk.
My brain was like, what about that Mandalorian idea? And I was like, that's quite good. I should do that. And then obviously did it at like 1:45 on Sunday when I should have been asleep. But as soon, the thing was, I was like not even bothered about the numbers on it at this point. I was just like, right, this is fun. I enjoy this, and I'm going to have a laugh with it. And then I did 2 of them, and then 5 minutes later, there's a streamer called Dust Monkey, and he basically makes 3D model helmets and things.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was straight in his DMs trying to find out how much it would be to get myself a custom metal teal and purple one and all the rest of it. It ain't cheap, but I was sorely tempted, and I was like, and it took all of my energy to say, thanks for the info. I'm going to see if this thing pops first before I do that. And but that was like, that's restraint from me. That's growth. There's character development for you that would never have been there before.
I did the same with streaming equipment. Like because normally, like you say, you just buy everything and then the project dies. But with streaming, I started on my phone. So I was on my phone streaming an hour-long comedy show every Sunday night. This is at the start of lockdown. And in order to have like titles, when you do we do our thing here now, you just press a button, it's like roll the credits and whatever.
Yep.
On there, I was holding up my Chromebook to the thing in front, and it was on a stand in front of it for 10 minutes while people came into the room, and I was like, what? And then this was how I started. And then I started doing then I got like a better phone. I upgraded. So I was doing it in my kitchen for half an hour in the mornings. Oh, Dave, I bought everything so gradually because I was like, please don't hate this. Don't hate this. And then I was like, if I buy a green screen, it can be anything. So I spent 25 quid and I got the smallest greens because I couldn't afford it. So I got the smallest green screen. I had like a crap chair. It's not this chair, obviously it's new, but I had like this green screen. I'm 6'2", so I'm not small. I'm not big, but I'm not small. So it was this big. So I couldn't, I was performing like this, like that. But I bought everything like, every month I'd buy one thing, like a light, and then another bit, and then someone gave me a camera, and then the community got big, and they were like, hey, and then it obviously needed to grow. So then I was like, I'm gonna have to get a computer. I have to not use a phone. Like honestly, the start of the show every week for 6 months was me going and just closing the laptop.
I love it. But this is the thing, is like, there's that, I know it's a cheesy old quote about the whole, you don't need to be great to start, but you do need to start to be great, and this I think the fact that everyone wants everything to be perfect on their first go is such a thing, like that holds people back thing. Because unfortunately if it's not good on your first, if it's not what you wanted it to be on your first go, you won't have a second go. And then if you don't have the second go, it'll never be, it won't end up being what you want it to be. You need to actually put the work in order to get things good. But you also need to, go through that period of things being not so good in order to actually get there. And so many people are scared off by that. And mine was similar. The only difference was I'd got a webcam. I'd bought the webcam before lockdown. So it was like one of those Logitech C922s or whatever, but it wasn't 450 quid like it was if I'd actually waited 2 weeks or whatever.
This one's the C922. Hello.
Yeah. So they went up to like 350, 370 quid, like in the first couple of months of lockdown. Yeah. Jesus. Ridiculous. And that was the only thing. But I was in here with just a ball light, like an exposed light bulb above there. I possibly just done me lockdown hair, which meant I'd shaved it all off, so I looked like a really sexy Professor X. But it's like, but all the light shine on that, and then I'm like, my office was basically everything had been thrown in here over the years because I worked out on the road, so
you don't use it,
so I don't use it. And then so I bought the green screen, which is sat there and literally can't fit behind me now that I've turned everything around this way. Two things that can't work in this office because of the fact that there's not much space here now anymore. One is the green screen, the other one's my bloody VR. It's like there's not enough room to do VR.
No, Jesus, I can't imagine VR in there. Just, my God.
It works if I go in that there's like, it's got a load of junk in it right now, but that little square bit was big enough to do VR in, but you can't set up over there. But yeah,
this is very close. Look, that's me. That's me touch like the back. As soon as I do that, it touches the back.
Yeah.
And because I get so like animated on stream, there have been like me go bunk, and I try to grab something to stop it.
Just don't accidentally snap that Infinity Gauntlet, because we don't know what actually we don't know what happens with a snap when no one's got it on.
Half the Lego people disappear. I had it already. I had 2 of these, and now the other one's gone. They're in the chat. Reza said I've got a great community. So thank you for that, Rez. That's really
you do. I love coming over to your community. That's why I lurk in your community a lot of the time, is because once I'm in your community, I'm not getting work done for like an hour. Like none. And as we've already discussed, I don't need that distraction.
I don't need the distraction.
It's like,
you should come over tomorrow. I spent hours now. It was 20 minutes, because of course I do everything half an hour before. But I spent hours now animating every single channel reward point. So now every time someone redeems channel rewards, and it animates this stuff on screen now. So come and spend some, and just it's too
I've
much.
got a lot of channel points on yours as well.
I know.
I'm like, have we got time for a Grimbles?
We have got time. That is now activated by the people. So instead of before where I press the button, I've now got it so that if someone does it, it just automatically, and I have to react, because I just thought, screw it. If we're talking about something sensitive and someone presses Grimbles, it's just part of the atmosphere. Grimbles and continue the conversation. That's what happened.
I was going to say, would you like to say who Grimbles is for anyone who's like, who's this Grimbles we're talking about? Or you can bring Grimbles on. For anyone who listens back to this on the podcast, you'll miss out. Go and check out the video version.
It's a space sidekick.
He's a space sidekick.
Grimbles! He's the unfiltered part of my brain. You know what? 11 years, Dave. 11 years. I was a professional comedian. I was in GQ. I was a professional comedian. Now I am a streamer on Twitch with a puppet. But you love it.
Isn't that kind of the same thing?
No, you know what? We talk about mental health. I'm just gonna stick around. We talk about mental health, and a lot of people had a bad time over the lockdown, and we have as well. But it's this stepping away from stand up and coming into streaming has been like the proper. It's really fixed a lot of the problems I had. A lot of the things I had, I don't have as much imposter syndrome anymore. I don't have as many, I would come off stage and walk out into my car and cry because I was just so wound tightly. I was always on edge, and it's very competitive. And also everyone in comedy is you're in competition with each other. Each of you, everyone's looking for the same thing. Whereas here on Twitch and streaming in general, because I do other streaming as well, you're not in competition with anyone else. There's no one you've got to beat. You find your audience, they're your audience, then you share them with other people. That's why I like raiding, because you share them. Or like you said, we drop into each other's streams and we talk about stuff, and it's all one big lovely community. I mean, obviously there is the same kind of politics and stuff, but I've never found my tribe. I'm 38 years old. I'm not. I'm 39. That's a lie. Or 765, depending on if we're on the stream or not.
Depends who's asking.
Depends who's asking. I don't have the alert here, though.
765. 4. 5.
764. 5. That was a half an hour before.
I know.
That was me remembering. Grimbles is my puppet. So Grimbles is the part of my brain who says things that I'm not allowed to, aren't you? Yeah, I say whatever you want. I just say whatever you want. And it don't matter, because I'm a space socket. It's why he doesn't speak like me. But it's got to the point where I say things, I just go, so this is less embarrassing. It's got to the point where I do it in the real world. So I'll be talking, having a conversation. I'll go, we'll be like, and my wife will say something like, "This is bullshit," like that, and she laughs, and it's all right. But I can imagine that will come up in divorce papers at one point. And then Grimbles will obviously put his little shirt and tie on if it has to go to court, I guess. He's got his bikini. Did you see his bikini? Did you look? Here's his bikini that he wore, that Lucy made for him, my wife.
Oh,
she made
beautiful.
for him. for the hot tub stream that
The
you
hot
did.
tub stream.
I don't know if you see. There's there's something that makes myself laugh. There's a clip somewhere of him going, "Oh yeah, I know about your gravy accident," and every time he says it, it's completely out of context. But in my head, I'll be upstairs, we'll be lying in bed, and I'll be reading a book about fantasy stuff, and I hear gravy accident in my head, and I'll start laughing. And my wife's like, "What are you laughing at?" I'll be like, "Oh yeah," it's just so
you wouldn't think of a stand-up comedian as actually having that filtered part of the brain. So would you say that Grimbles has given you almost permission to say even more ludicrous stuff?
Well, the thing with stand-up is that most stand-up is scripted. Most. And I'd say like 95%. So for me, like I've got a habit that I haven't lost, which is that every room has a notebook in it because everything is written. And from before, here you go. You can see like this is like all of is just full of like notes from where I just had a joke idea, and then you write it out, and then you rewrite it, and you edit it, and you rewrite it, and then when you go up on stage, you've practiced it so many times that it sounds like a conversation, because that's the point of it. You have a conversation with your audience, and then the other 5% that's kind of off the cuff is when you start out, it's all practiced. It's you're that fast because you weren't that fast a year ago, and so this time you've got the retort, you know what to say. So absolutely, there are some things that are complete improv, but mostly it's all a trick and it's all like practiced. Whereas you don't get that in real life. And in green rooms and stuff, I'm an unfiltered individual anyway. I overshare all the time. And in green rooms and stuff, I would be like, "Oh, I'm so excited about the gig. Oh, I'm so excited." And everyone is like, "Jesus, is this guy new? What's going on?" I'd be backstage at the Comedy Store in Manchester and I'd be like, "Oh, can't wait, there's 400 people here." You can hear, like, when I get excited, it becomes...
I was going to say, is that where Grimbles' origin comes from?
Grimbles is high-pitched and quick because the faster I get, like, the more excited I get, the higher pitch I get. Whereas when I'm being serious, it becomes Scully. Scully's a possessed demon head, he's up here, which is he's a character from Dungeons and Dragons, but he talks like this, and he is all of our. So when you come on my stream and someone follows, it says, "You have a new follower, Chris. React accordingly." That's my telling my kids off voice. So if I'm because this again is not the voice. "Oh, I'm so angry at you. I'm so angry." Everything is like, whereas if I talk slowly and trying to talk, basically it's my mum. It's my mum talking slowly. It's what it is.
I think I actually have like about 14 different types of scouse. Like, because excited me is the high pitched scouser as well, and then angry me is the scouse gangster. Like, I was going to say your lower voice does sound a little bit like your Ray Winstone as well, only obviously without the thicker accent.
He talks like that. Ray Winston talks like the bully. So he actually talks like my brother. My brother talks like that. My brother's my younger brother, and he is the opposite of me. So he's really honest. He's like really honest. Everything is black and white. He's a really good guy, but he talks. Chris, why are you using the word ingratiate? It was a real. What does that mean? It was always that I was a scholar, and he works in project management, but he's like a muscly guy. Like, he goes to the gym every day, and he's got a shaven head, and he's whereas I am this. I have to transform.
Where's the sparkly jacket today? I thought you were never going to take that thing off.
Oh, I love the sparkly jacket. I just got this, so I was just literally I was out buying clothes for my daughter at charity. I say charity shop. It's a place called New Life. It's like clothes from ends of seasons. Sorry, Adam, you don't need to know this. And like if a shop. I buy everything from charity shops, and if a shop like has leftover stock at the end of their season, they donate it to there. You buy it from there. It's brand new, but all the money goes to disabled children. So that's what we do.
Cool.
So we went there to get her stuff, and this is a Levi's jacket that I found today for £6, brand new. £6.
Very nice.
And I have to say, look. Double denim.
Oh, he's double denimed
it. Triple denim. Yeah, look, there's my shoes. Triple.
So, all right, with two people with potential ADHD, let's try and circle back to one thing that's left unfinished so far, which is, I'm going to have to put an intro on the audio version of this that says there are no questions, like none. It's just tangents. But you said you didn't sort of allude earlier to the fact. To glitches, yeah. Oh, you did allude earlier to the idea that you said, like, you know, that this has relieved all of that. Like, stand-up had that whole competition side of things. Streaming doesn't really feel like that. What other ways has streaming benefited you?
Well, I found my tribe. So I really found my tribe. Even in your chat now, there's like the Bahama, like the people are dropping in that have come, that are part of your community, that are also have been dropping into mine.
Yeah.
And it might not even be that we've ever interacted. Like I might not have raided you, and it might not be that. It might just be that we're British people. But it's so easy to find new people that instead of me going out and having to fit in with a group of people that I don't fit in with, because I too honest, too open. Now I can just be myself and people will find me. So I have found my tribe of people by gradually filtering out all the people that aren't, because they spend an hour with me and they're like, he's not for me, and they never have to watch again.
Yeah.
Whereas the ones that are like, yep, I can stick with this person, I can talk to this person, and it's all at any point. It's one of the reasons I like Twitch. At any point you can turn off that TV. Any point they can just go, nope, I'm done. And if they're still there with you, you know, if they're still there watching, it's amazing. They have chosen you over everything else. Like you got, well, I can see, because I'm looking at the chat here, I can see you've got like nearly 30 people who have chosen to.
Don't tell me that. Now
that's right now. Is that right now? And it's,
I'm joking.
It'll be 5 now. I've said it. But it's I've turned mine off, so I don't look at it. The only reason I can see it is because I'm looking at the chat. But those people have chosen to spend, have chosen to spend their Tuesday afternoon lunch break probably with you because of the way you make them feel.
Because I'm thirsty but worthy.
Thirsty but worthy. But hello, people. But that's what I mean, is they could choose to be anywhere else. So isn't that a lovely thing? So when people choose to spend time with me, it's a feeling that I've always been a bit of a nerd, a bit of an outsider, a bit of pariah, and I've always never felt like I fitted in. So now I've got a bunch of people who choose to spend time with me and choose to spend time in my world, not just with me, but in this that is, I'm very, very careful not to say, I used to say like chaos and madness and stuff like that, but it's not. This is not that. I am the opposite of that. Everyone knows what to expect when they come on the streams. They know there's going to be a puppet, and we're going to go around the world, and there's a giant dice, and it's not chaos. It's you. Chaos is not any. It is no rules. Whereas they know what to expect, so they're there because of it. And I think that what a lovely feeling, Dave.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And one of the things that I found when I did my birthday stream this year, so on my birthday, I had 9 stand-up comedians on. I was like, well, there was me and Mounty don't count, but there was like Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling came and joined us for the basically. I basically got free stand-up for my birthday. Just sat here.
Where was me? You could have asked me.
Well, you were on with me the next week on the marathon. And I'd only just met you back then as well. I was really nervous about asking you back then as well. Like, it's funny, really, isn't it? Like, I was like, I was like, first of all, I was like,
I see.
I know. I was like, oh my God. When I first met you, I was like, holy crap, why didn't I meet him before I planned the marathon? And then when someone dropped out, I didn't even go through a list. Like, I was like, I'm going to ask Chris. Okay. I know it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I know it's a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to ask you. And I think, you know, if you look back, the message is there, and it says, I know it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and, you know, feel free to say no and all the rest of it, but I couldn't think of anyone that I'd rather have on than you. But like with Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, there was the thing with that was that every single, like you said about the competition in comedy, every single one of the people that was in that Zoom call, there was like 9 of us in total at one point. We were all in together and we were all talking over each other, but it was never a problem, like ever, which I think it's only people who have either been entertainers and have been around other entertainers and know that actually there's 9 divas here and we're all going to fight to share the spotlight. And if someone talks over us, that's okay, because we talk over them as well. And it was, it was the most unfiltered I've ever been because, well, they were sending me shots, weren't they? Everyone, like, we had a sound alert that was for shots. I put the sound alert up to 20 quid at one point, and people were still triggering it. Made a fortune on my birthday. It was actually a really drunken happy birthday song. But But basically, and it was completely unfiltered. And the next day, I was out walking with my wife, and she was like, "You seem really happy." Like, because it was after a day, after
Still drunk.
After like I have very big emotional hangovers after birthdays because I'm a big massive diva. I like being the center of attention. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
And the problem is usually as I drink more, I then go. I usually step on some toes or something with my IRL friends, and it was that whole. There's something about the fact that my community here. I'm like, look, they accept me for who I am, and it's okay for me to be the diva because I'm the one on the screen. So kind of, it's almost like people expect me to be the diva here. Like I've always had this weird thing where if someone said, "Go and give a speech to that room," I'd be like, "Are they expecting me?" They'd be like, "No." And then I'd be like, "No, I'm not doing it." Whereas if they said, "Go and give a speech to that full football stadium, but we're going to introduce you first," I'd be like, "Sweet, easy." Like, not a problem. The number of people that are there would not bother me in the slightest, providing someone had introduced me first and said who I am. It's that first bit. It's like, being the diva when I'm not expected to be, being the center of attention when I'm not expected to be, like, well, who's this person? Going into a house party full of people I don't know. It's not going to happen until I get a few drinks, and then it's not going to not happen.
What you just described there was my whole job. That's literally going into rooms and making people like me was my whole job. That's my wife's like a massive introvert, and I am the other way. And she uses me as like a lure. If we go to parties or social situations, she's like, "You first." And I'll just walk through the door and I'm like, "Hey, let's have a chat." And my wife's like behind me and I'm like, "And this is my wife." That's what she uses me for. That's the whole. So I don't mind because I've been in those situations. I've been on stages in like working men's clubs. Never again. Luckily, thank you. And where they've been like a guy's told a racist joke to me before I've gone on. And he hasn't introduced me and just pushed me up on the stage. And I've been like, "So that guy's a racist." And then I just start talking to 200 people about how racist the leader of the club is. So I've got no problem. Like when someone said to me, "How long have you been streaming?" And I said, because it's not even a year yet. It's in September, I'll have been streaming for a year. So that's how long I've been, because before I was doing it on Facebook and YouTube. And in December, and "How long have you been streaming?" And I was like 6 months. And they said, "It feels like you've been streaming forever." I was like, "Yes, because I spent 11 years talking to two people in the Dog and Duck, where one of them was a dog. That's what I've been doing."
And the other one was a duck.
The other one was a duck. When you have to perform to bar staff because no one showed up to your show, you start really learning how to do it. But yeah, I know what you mean. You can just. My wife's got a really good saying about this, which is, "I like the evil artist but Dog and Duck." And Rezel, you don't have to worry about keeping up. It's fine. No, there's no such thing as keeping up. We go at the slowest person's pace. My wife's got a saying, which is, "You should never worry about being enough or being too much. You should never worry about being enough or being too much for other people. You're not too much for other people. You just haven't found the right people." That's what she has always said. Because I always go like, I think I'm too much. I come back from like a social situation and I can tell people go silent. I'll start talking and people go silent, and it's because I do it automatically. I fall into the patterns, and I've done it now. I can tell. And
you haven't.
But I'll be like, "I feel like I'm too much," and she's always said, "I don't think so." But then she started saying, "You're not too much. I would tell you when you're too much, and you're never going to be too much. You're never going to be too much. You're just going to need to find the right people. So just stop worrying about that." And I think it's such a lovely. I think that people worry about fitting in too much, and what they should do is worry more about making space. That's what they should think about. You don't have enough time to worry about fitting in and changing the shape of yourself. You should just worry about making your own space. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's enough of it.
It's awesome. Like I say, that I'm not here to fit in. I'm here to stand out. But it's like, but I wanted so badly to fit in. Like at first, because you want to be included, don't you? You want to feel like you're part of the tribe. And the problem is, historically, the tribe that you had access to, that's one of the, it was very limited. It was limited to the who's in your high school, who's in the job that you work in, or your college, who's in your halls at uni, who's in your family. It might be for some people. And we think as well, like, it's like, it's not that we don't belong. It's like, well, there's a space where the way I like to say it is about belonging. It's not about being with a group of people that are all the same. It's about being with a group of people that don't give a crap if you're different. It's like, yes. they accept you. We don't need to be exactly the same in order to get along really well. And it's like, as a result of that, it's like, as long as it's not like the differences become a reason that we don't get along, or the differences become a reason that we can't be part of the same group. But it is one of the best things about Twitch, is because you realize that the way I like to say it is that we're all crazy. We just consider the people to be normal that are the same brand of crazy that we are.
They're just different. I have started to, so I used to, like, I'm not saying that either's better, but I used to think that there was normal people and crazy people, because I used to feel like I was like, how are people liking football, for example? That was
balls.
I don't really understand it. I was like, how do they like it? There's so many, and I'm not part of that. How do I? And I don't feel like that. And I used to feel like I'm on the outside. And then when you start talking to people it's the last year, talking to people all like this, you start to realize everyone is a different kind of thing. There isn't these people and these people. There's not left and right. Everyone is just a combination of opinions, and they're all different. There's never two people who have the same opinions. So I have started to try and apply that to every single person, where I'm like, this person is completely different to this. But I tell you what the other turning point is. One of my friends, Tom, is one of my closest friends, is neurodiverse. And talking to him more has meant that I have, like, all of the assumptions I had with neurodiverse, and finding out that I'm neurodiverse as well. That ADHD is part of it, but it's not. He's ASD, yeah. And and talking to him, and all of the assumptions I had surrounding autism, and everything like that, was wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong. And he taught me about it. And I was like, if I'm wrong about this, what else am I wrong about? And then I applied it to everything. And I was like, he is not this, he's not this, he's not that. He is all these different things. And that means that I'm also wrong about these people over here. So maybe I should start to apply that. And I think that we need to do that more. We need to apply that, take someone individually, regard it as a group of individuals rather than they're football fans, they're Dungeons and Dragons fans, like what I mean. And it's made me a lot happier, I have to say. Made me a lot happier.
There is diversity within similarity.
Exactly. I thought I hated running, and then I found out I loved it.
Yeah, I don't want running to know that I love it, because if it knows, then that means I've got to go and do it. But I found out that I didn't not hate it when I had no gym to go to. But it's like within groups, there's that big problem, is the idea that you have to agree with everything, and if you don't, then you must be part of the other group. And it's one of the strangest but most pervasive thought patterns, in the fact that, okay, if you're a lefty with one right view, then you must be a righty. But let's just say, for the ease of numbers, there's 10 views in the whole world. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? There's only 10 points of view, and you side with the left on 9 out of 10. But everyone in the left, because you don't agree on that 10th one, is like, well, you're not a lefty, you're a righty. Therefore, because of the one thing, it's like, but I disagree. If I disagree with you on one, I'm not part of your group. How can I be part of their group if I disagree with them on 9? It's like, how has that level of logic made it through the flowchart of our understanding? It's like,
see, I find with that if you agree with a 9 out of 10, and there's one that you don't, normally you'll end up agreeing with the 10th, because you're already in that thought pattern anyway. So I agree with you. You're like, you shouldn't, there's no way you should think, if you agree out of 9 things on the left and 1 on the right, but then you're never going to agree you're never going to identify as the right. So you're never going to agree to the extreme, because a lot of people who identify as being one or the other have an extreme view, because that's why they identify, is because they're like, I identify as the right, so I hate all other foreigners and women and gays, and and it's like, okay, well, if that's your identity, then of course you're going to be vocal about it. and you're going to want everyone. The problem with this topic of conversation is the right don't care who you hate as long as you hate. The extreme right don't care. And I had a joke about it before, is that ironically the most inclusive side is the right, because they don't care as long as you hate the same people as them. But being a very strong lefty, all of my views are very left leaning. I'm never sure which. I don't know if that is right, because some of them, no, not right, it's left. But I don't know, because I don't keep up with them as much. Luckily, I have teenage daughters who try to keep me up. But I've had things where I've been like, oh, I think this, and then because I agree with the 9, my thought process is the same as the 10th bit. You know what I mean? So maybe it doesn't agree with it. Maybe I don't agree with it now, but then I'm going to do research. Then I'm going to talk, because my circle is all those people. I'm going to end up agreeing with the 10th. I think it's when you stubbornly refuse to listen to new information that makes it a problem. I think, because I think that's the same on both sides. I absolutely think that you should be able to say, I'm wrong, whoops, I made a mistake.
Yeah, totally. And that's another one of those things that doesn't seem to be liked. It's like, you made the mistake. Don't, like, you've admitted it, okay. It's
one big mistake, mate.
The weirdest.
I'm 7 failures and 1 success. That's what I am.
But yeah, exactly. It's like, it's the weirdest one I ever had was I don't know if you've ever seen my "You Are Enough" video, but there's a chunk in that says, it's okay to change your mind, to change your direction, to change your beliefs. The journey evolves, and we need to evolve with it. And I got a message from a lovely Christian lady at one point saying, "Oh, I love this video, but can you change that bit about changing your beliefs? It's not for I don't like that." And I was like, "Why?" And they were just like, "Well, I just don't think that people should change their beliefs." And she was like, I think she said, "As a Christian or something, I just don't feel that people should change their beliefs." And I was like, "Okay, do you evangelize as part of your faith?" And she was like, "Yeah, of course I do." And I was like, "So you're asking people to change their beliefs, aren't you?" And it's like she just didn't agree with people changing their beliefs away from obviously what she believed, and it's a very bizarre thing. Like, it's like
it's just faith. Faith is belief in the absence of facts. That's what that is.
We could go down a whole lot of rabbit holes on that one.
I come from a really strict Catholic family, so I don't even like saying I'm an atheist anymore because of the people that claim that. They're like,
well, you only agree with 8 out of 10 of the atheist things.
I literally agree with one thing, and then I'm like, because you look at Richard Dawkins, and you're like, oh, I read your book. It was it was a very good book, and then you read his Twitter feed, you're like, oh, I don't agree with anything else, Richard Dawkins. Oh, it's just this one thing, and then that makes me go, maybe I don't agree with Richard Dawkins. You should do that. You should question yourself. You should go, oh, well, I agree with 9 out of the 10 things. Maybe I've got to start questioning myself on the 10th thing. Because,
or maybe I'm wrong on the other 9.
Or maybe you're wrong on the other. Well, no, but that is a fact. If you agree with 9 out of 10, then maybe you need to question 9. But statistically, I'm a big fan of maths. And 9 out of 10, you then have to start thinking, maybe I'm wrong about that. That's what I mean with Richard Dawkins. I'll be like, I agree with everything you say about this one thing. And then I look at the other stuff Richard Dawkins saying, I agree with, I'm nowhere near Richard Dawkins. I don't want to touch that man. I don't want to touch him. So yeah, I totally understand. I think that if you agree, like the 9 out of 10 things, if you're 9, you usually are going to trip into the 10th eventually. Just let it happen. Just become radicalized, Dave.
No.
Just become what if the 10th
thing is? What if the 10th thing is absolutely ridiculous? This is. But that,
do it. The world's ridiculous. You've got one chance. Last night I was sitting there, I was thinking, what's my legacy? And it's going to be bloody Grimbles. It's going to be on the thing. That's what where I say he's a space worm, so it doesn't really matter. This is what Grimbles is going to be, isn't it? You're going to be what my kids get. That's my inheritance. Yeah, I love it.
Well, let's face it. He's probably got his, technology will allow him to have an AI-driven VTube career within about 6 months, probably. So,
talking about that's already happened. I got it ready to launch, Dave. When the inevitable scandal comes out, Chris Papa Glitch wears too much denim, whatever I get cancelled for. I can't wait.
You're not going for triple denim next time, are you?
I've got triple denim. I showed you my shoes.
Oh, the shoes as well. Oh, so you can go quad. You could have a nice cap.
I nearly went NSYNC hat. I was going
to say, do you ever cover that fabulous hair?
No, mate. Have you ever seen a picture of me before? Because I've only looked like this for about 4 years. Prior to this, I was Chinese. No, but have you seen the pictures of me?
I've seen Big Chris.
Big Chris. When I was big, because I was 26 stone. But I had like floppy hair that hung over my head. When my wife met me, I was that big, floppy hair. I used to wear like big cardigans and a superhero t-shirt, just like tried to cover myself as much as possible, and I had a goatee, and I'm doing this because that's what it looked like. It looked like I was halfway through eating a hamster, and that's how I know she loves me for me, Dave. That's because then I lost the weight.
It's okay. I need to get. I'll have you ever seen Big Dave?
No, I haven't seen Big Dave.
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure that Siri understands. Big Dave had a goatee.
Siri's like, I don't understand Big Dave. Who's Big Dave?
Big Dave also had floppy hair and a goatee.
Oh, it's not going to... Oh, Big Dave had a really good career in IT.
I did actually. I did have a career. And then when I had my super long curly hair...
When you said super long curly hair, I thought you meant the tunnel. But yeah,
yeah, there is.
You had the same as me, where your pictures from when you were younger, you're not proud of, whereas the pictures from when you're older, you're like, that's my.
I don't care who you are, as long as you love me.
You definitely have. You definitely have the Justin Timberlake ramming hair there. That is what
well, do you want to see scary, gaunt, like I'm probably going to die Skeletor, Dave?
What happened to you? What happened, Dave? Did you have like an eating disorder?
I still technically do, I suppose. I'm a recovered non-purge bulimic, the reason I say I still technically do is just because I could fall back into the binging cycle very, very easily. Yeah. So and I didn't think that until last year, but the additional stresses of the last 12 months, like, yeah, it's made it significantly harder, like to continue to not binge. So it is something I have to be mindful of. But I had non-purge bulimia, which is it's a binge and restrict cycle rather than a binge and purge cycle. So I would binge and then I'd restrict. So I'd take a day off of eating every week or a couple of weeks or whatever it might be. Then when I was in the fitness industry, which is a really easy place to hide an eating disorder, I switched it around. I'd have 6 days of really high restriction followed by a planned binge every single week. And it was terrible. It made the eating disorder worse. It made me lose weight really, really quick, so I was happy about it at the time. It was only when I then tried to learn moderation afterwards that I found it very, very hard that I realised all the damage it had done. Because in my head, basically anything I wanted through the week, I would buy it and put it in either the cupboard or the fridge. Like I'd put it in this cupboard above the fridge, or I'd put it in the fridge. And I'd be like, I can have that on Saturday, and I did not have cravings like at all. So therefore I managed to sustain that for a really long period of time. Yeah. Like I think if I'd have had cravings, and I wouldn't have been able to sustain it. Yeah. And in my head, it was just like I thought I'm learning good habits and practicing delayed gratification and all the rest of this, which is like it's why I got into the fitness industry was because. In my own journey of getting into the fitness industry, I went through a process with a PT that promoted that side of of it, and it was working, so it was encouraged more. And basically, I was like, oh, this made how I was before even worse. Really and the worst thing, I don't know if you actually experienced this as well. At the very bottom, I hated my body more than I did at the top. because I hated more things about it. When I was big, I hated the fact that I was big, and that was it. And even that, I'd learned to come to terms with it. You know, I'm not a stand-up comedian. However, I have used comedy as a defense mechanism since childbirth. You know, came out telling jokes. Fucking hell, Mum, that was a long time, wasn't it? But I did. I used to have back when I had that curly hair, I had a T-shirt that said "Fat people are harder to kidnap," and that was, I owned being fat, or at least I thought I did. Yeah. And then when I was that gaunt version, I still thought I was big when my face looked like that. At that point, I had a 7-pack because the bottom two never split. I got like the loose skin, but I also hated lots of little individual parts. I hated all my stretch marks. I hated the fact that I seemed to retain more fat on my left side than my right side, and I was pinching at things and picking at things, and that's that's when the body dysmorphic behaviors all kicked off. Which, by the way, feels the exact same thing as social media obsession. Like, it's literally the same battle. But so yeah, that was kind of what happened back then. And yeah, as I say, I consider myself I consider myself recovered most of the time from the eating disorder now. Yeah. But as I said, the last year definitely tested the capacities of that.
I think that you never ever recover. I talked to someone who speaks about it professionally. Like, that's what she does. She speaks about eating disorders. Phoebe Webb, her name is, and she made me realize that perhaps I had something like that, because she said what you don't realize is that binging is a bigger part of it than, like, binge eating is a bigger eating disorder than anorexia or bulimia, because it goes undiagnosed. People don't even know they've got it. Yeah. And binging is a type of self-harming, which I didn't even, like, I was like, whoa. Hey, I didn't realize that. And she was like, yeah, because that's how I got big. I used to just, when I felt sad, I just, instead of feeling things, I'd eat or drink or whatever. Yeah. And it's what I gave up. So I do still eat, like, I eat normally now, but like you, I used to just, but I didn't save it. I just eat. Like, if I was going to a gig, I would have in the car, I can tell you, because this was when I was like the worst. I had a full Christmas cake, so a Christmas cake bar, a tube of Pringles, and then, not a pudding, but like a cake. Yeah. And then a tube of Pringles and a packet of almond fingers, do you know, like that dense cake? Yeah, and Pepsi Max, which, okay, is sugar-free. But then that was how I justify it. And it wasn't until I realised. Yeah, exactly. And then it wasn't until I realised those things alone were like 2 days worth of food, let alone whatever else. Because I'd eat when I got home, I'd eat during the day, and then that just to make me feel better. So I totally get it, but I didn't realise. And I was like, maybe that was part of it. And I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I was. I've managed to maintain it, but at the same time, I still slip off every now and then, and I'll have I'll eat like a bunch of sweets or whatever at some point. But then I'll be normal for a week, and then I'll eat like a bunch of. I say normal for me. I don't mean normal in the world. Yeah. And then whatever that is. But I didn't realize that binge eating was a bigger problem than, and I also didn't realize that it was a type of self-harm. And I think that if we were educated to do that, maybe people would recognize their problems earlier than in their bloody late 30s, Dave. You shouldn't be 30. Well, I was 36 going, it feels like it could be an issue. You shouldn't be doing that.
Well, yeah, that was about 10 years ago for me. I was late 20s. No, I'm 39 as well.
I was being
nice. But yeah, I mean, the thing is for me that the binging wasn't the form of self-harm, the restricting was. So the binging for me was comfort. Absolutely comfort. It was like, life is shit, I'm going to have some comfort when I go home. And the problem is, I call it a boomerang, which is the reason I have a boomerang sat on my desk pretty much at all times, which is it goes forward and then comes whipping back. So it gives me the comfort, like, you know, getting bullied in school, go home, have a packet of custard creams dunked in tea until there's no tea left to dunk custard creams in, and I feel good. Originally for like a few hours, actually, the first few times, but then eventually it was like I'd feel good for like 5 minutes, and then the boomerang comes whipping back, and now I feel even worse than I felt before. But it was definitely the self-loathing and self-harm side of things was the restriction. because I purged only once, and then I absolutely hated it, thankfully. So I didn't think that never became like a habit for me, but it was very much the if I listened to what was going on inside of my own head, what was going on inside my own head when I was eating was, go on, this will make you feel better, as opposed to when I was trying to, like, when I was restricting it, it was like, you don't deserve it. You're like, you deserve, this is what you deserve. You need to do this. Otherwise, you're not you're not worth anything if you keep on putting weight on, if you keep on doing this. And I still put an absolute ton of weight on, obviously. I would have done it probably a lot quicker, but yeah, that was definitely more, that was very much a, you've eaten too, especially the first time, the one and only time I binged, I remember it vividly. I call it the other. I don't call it the other now. Back then, it was just my own brain. That what the little devil was kind of whispering in my ears, like when I went off and did that.
George was mine.
George. We just call mine the other. I was trying to explain the other to a little bit more to my wife this morning, because she still doesn't understand the other, and she doesn't understand that why sometimes my behaviour is just not like me. And it's like I said, I'm like, honestly, that part of me doesn't exist when I'm not symptomatic. It's not like, oh, I recognize a bit of it there, and if I kind of prod it, it's going to come out. It's genuinely either there or it's not, that side of me. And then, but when it's there, God, is it loud? It's like,
I've said to my wife, because I don't think I think it's important to recognize that there are different parts of your brain that do take over sometimes, and I have said to my wife that I think sometimes I wake up and I have different opinions about stuff that was my camera just going mental there, that I have different opinions about stuff that are so radically different from the night before that it feels like I'm just a whole different person. But I call him George. I say that's George. And then I'll come back, like I'll just do something and suddenly I'm back and fine. But I think we've got to make it very clear that we're not talking about schizophrenia here, where someone's having a mood shift or anything like that. It's just getting that sense of a phantom in your brain who is in control for a little bit, and then you don't even feel the change, do you? You just one day you're just like one way and one day you're another way, and you can't remember anything. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. This is the whole thing. It's like, do we have undiagnosed dissociative identity disorder? It's like we don't know. To be honest, we genuinely neither one of us 100% knows for definite. We just know what we've been diagnosed as and what we've been tested for over the years. So yeah, it's like it's how I'd explain it. Some days it'd be very, very different to how I'd explain it other days, and it's like one of the things I hated about why my bipolar was untreated for a super long period of time was whenever I wasn't feeling symptomatic, I didn't really want to go to the doctors because I didn't want to have those conversations, because I was convinced that I could trigger that mood back off, and these moods were few and far between, so I would not turn up to appointments and stuff, and looking back I know that wasn't particularly helpful. However, at the same time, on the times that I did, when I was a bit older, I tested out and I'm like, right, well, I'm going to go regardless of how I'm feeling, because I realized that every single time I break that cycle, I end up sending myself back to square one. I've got to do a mood diary for 2 months. It takes forever to do anything. So I'm like, I'm going to go. But then when I went that day, I was like, no, I was honest about how I was feeling that day. And they only really treated me as to how I was feeling that day. And it's like,
they do that all the time. All the time. It's one of those things where it's like when you call in, you say to the doctor, I'm ill. And they say, okay, your appointment's in 3 days. You go in 3 days and you're like, well, I'm not ill anymore. I don't know what it is. And then 6 months down the line, they're like, why didn't you tell us you had cancer? And you're like, well, I was ill back then. And then I didn't have the symptoms. And it's the same with mental health. But I think it's even harder when it's not physical. When it's like mental, you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm feeling ill. And they're like, right, you got a 6-month waiting list, because they don't prioritize it. So it's taken me, I went for this ADHD, it was January, wasn't it? February. And we've taken to now I've had 4 or 5 phone calls with 4 or 5 different people. And then I finally got to the point where they're saying, yeah, it's probably that. And it's just like, it shouldn't take 6 months to do a mental health, not even a diagnosis, just your initial appointments. It shouldn't take that.
Well, not last Friday, but the Friday before, because I have this weird job that, you know, very fluctuates a lot. My wife has one of those nice stable ones. And so I know, well, not damn her, because I got put on her medical insurance as a result of it. I'm like, yes, I can go private. And I booked myself in for this full bloody test, which was like a full physical plus it says up to 2 hours to talk about anything psychological that might be, you know. And I'm like, right, okay, physically, I've got a dodgy lower back and a dodgy right calf. I need them sorting. But other than that, I'm not really bothered. It's like mentally, I am going to go in, I am going to open up to them, I'm going to tell them explicitly everything I've been feeling for the last year, what I'm used to feeling over the course of 6 months, I'm now feeling in the course of 6 days sometimes. And I'm going to talk to them all about this. And they obviously did all my bloods and all the rest of that stuff because that was part of the test. I went in talking about all of these things, and then all the doctor did was looked at it. I've got high cholesterol. I've got the usual markers of my diabetes isn't great. I've not got any of that, which is good because like loads of people in my family have got that. But literally, even after opening up to a private doctor about those exact issues, I still got like a lecture about food and exercise.
Yeah.
And so I left and had a really big, dirty burger. But
I remember being 15 and being taken to a dietitian. No, 13 and being taken to a dietitian. And I was like, and now I realize that's madness. Taking a 13-year-old to a dietitian. That's not why the kid is overeating. You know, it's not because they don't know their diet's wrong. They don't need more brown rice. If someone's 13 and overeating, it means that they're emotionally unstable and need some kind of support. But no, well, obviously it was the 90s, so we're not talking about very up to date. I say it's the 1890s, obviously.
1764.
But yeah, I've seen a big jump in mental health being like in younger doctors understanding it a bit better, but I'd really like to see it focused on a bit more because it just takes everything, all the diagnosis. I'm waving out like as if you know which way it is anywhere. I'm waving it into the center of the town over there, like you know. But I'd like to see it where it's consistent because you go to one doctor, you go to a different doctor every time. You go to one, you get one thing. You go to the other, you get another thing. They're like, this could be a hormone imbalance, and then they're like, actually, it's because you've got, I don't know, stomach cramps. And then the next one is like, actually, it's because you've got a pain in your leg. And you're like, it's none of those things. It's why I think self-diagnosis can be so important, but also so problematic because you can self-diagnose yourself really well, but then over-diagnose yourself in traits that are just standard humanity. We're all a little bit paranoid. We're all a little bit nervous. People get sad. It's okay. That was something, I'll tell you, that's something that I learned this over lockdown that was really important to me. Do you know Glennon Doyle? Have I said this before? So Glennon Doyle
no, I don't think so.
Is a really great writer. She tried to push through a marriage. Like her husband cheated on her. She wrote a book about it, opened up all the way about it. She was an alcoholic and a drug addict and stuff. Wrote a book about that and really opened up about it. Then she met a woman, fell in love with her. She was in a really strong Christian household, wrote a book about that, left her husband, but in a good way. It was like, that was very amicable and stuff. Anyway, one of the things that she said was important to her was that when she was when she got off alcohol and drugs and stuff, she went to a sponsor and said, after like 6 months, and said, I haven't had that moment where I feel better. I haven't had that moment where everyone else seems to just have this I feel better moment. Yeah. And the sponsor, she said, I just feel terrible. I want to drink because I feel terrible. I want to get stoned because I feel terrible. And I haven't had this movie moment that seems to be what we're supposed to have. And the sponsor said, no, that's never going to happen. You're never going to have that. No one's had that. That is you feeling everything for the first time, and it's not something you're taught to do. Mm-hmm. You struggle with it because no one teaches you how to feel. And I thought that was the important thing, is that we should be taught how to self-diagnose, and in the way that we are taught how to feel. So we're taught how to feel, and those are the boundaries of where your feelings are, and anything beyond that helps with your self-diagnosis. You know, that's so you know how you should feel. I think that it's so big a failing of our society where emotions aren't part of the curriculum at all. Like there's zero. In the same way that pleasure isn't part of sex ed, which it should be. The concept, that bit about feelings is not. You know, your kids are told not to feel things, not to feel things.
Well, they're not now because I might be doing some of the curriculum around here.
Oh, okay. Well,
and weirdly, that exact thing I did that was what my first session was, working with the NHS yesterday, was teaching a bunch of people to deliver the talks that I deliver in schools. And one of them is we acknowledge the feelings. We acknowledge, and we don't shy away from difficult feelings as well. We don't shy, or even difficult experiences. There's one of my big phrases is, "You are not weak, the journey is just difficult," right?
Yes.
And the reason for that being is that when someone struggles with something, they immediately think that, okay, this is too hard. I can't handle it. I'm weak. It's like, no, it's not that you can't handle it, that you're weak. It's that the thing is supposed to be difficult. It's not a fault and a flaw with you. It's the fact that you're not used to dealing with things that are difficult. We're used to this instant gratification. We're used to the kind of push that to one side and not deal with it. So that's one of the parts. That's actually one of the parts of what we teach, is the fact that, okay, it's in fact, literally the boomerang thing, the opposite to a boomerang behavior is a slingshot behavior. So a slingshot behavior, where's my bloody slingshot?
Get back.
There it is. You pull it back, you put it under tension, and then you let it fly forward. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, and it's supposed to be. And we're not. And so when it is difficult, instead of going, "Oh crap, this is difficult. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I can't." You know, it's like we actually almost embrace that difficulty and realize that the actual what we're trying to do is on the other side, pushing your feelings to one side. Boomerang, right? You may feel better in a distraction, or what's the word I'm looking for? Well, escapism. You know, it's like that. Yeah. That feels better in the short term. But then those problems come whipping back to hurt you later on. Actually dealing with them in the short term, much more difficult, but then the relief comes later on. And the same with like boundaries and relationships and all that type of thing. It's like if you do not address the boundaries in your relationship and you just capitulate to what the boundaries that are set by the most dominant person within that social setting is, you're going to be resentful of those boundaries long term, and they're going to cause more and more problems. They're going to cause chipping away, whether that is in a relationship, a friendship, a work situation. Whereas if you confront the boundaries and actually stick up for yourself, it's much more difficult in the short term and requires deliberately choosing confrontation. But it's choosing a smaller confrontation now, as opposed to the delayed confrontation of everything blowing up when you've just had too much of it all.
Well, that's it. But yeah, and what I was saying about the thing, those knowing what it should be helps you know when it's wrong. That's what. So you need to feel it, like you say. You need to know that you need to set your own boundaries. Boundaries are so important. People don't realize how important boundaries are, especially to people that suffer with mental health issues. You need to know what the rules are so that you can then expand within that area and know what the comfortable bit is. So there have to be set rules, then you can heal. That's how mental health works. But what you're talking about, you need to learn how to make boundaries so that even though it's uncomfortable then, it is more comfortable later. But the same goes with feelings, because you can't know that you're supposed to feel like that. So you go, "Oh, I don't feel good. Am I meant to feel like this?" And no one's ever said, "Yes, you're supposed to feel like that." So you're like, "Then I'm ill." And that's it. That's what I'm talking about with self-diagnosis is you need to know what you should feel so that when you do self-diagnosed, you're correct. You know, or at least you've got a better idea of it. I think that's what's so important. And I think it's great that you're doing that and teaching other people to do it. But we're very open in this house. Obviously, me as the dad, and obviously with me as the dad, that's how I mean. The kind of person I am, we're very open and we're very honest, and we very like our girls were more educated than the people educating. That, like, what was really funny about it was when our youngest had sex ed. The sex ed teacher couldn't say penis and vagina. So they said bagel and baguette. And we were laughing so much. But they and I wrote a joke about it and everything, but but seriously, that's what happened. And they were so ours are so educated. We split it up. So one time my wife did the biology and I did consent, and then we did it the other way around. But it's so important to do that. But I don't know why it's not doing that in schools. You need to have that. You need to have your emotions. You need to have pleasure. You need to have boundaries and how to set them. These things aren't taught, and they're way more important than Pythagoras' theorem. They're more important, I think, than a lot of the DT stuff. You taught how to sew and things like that. And I don't think I don't undervalue that as an art form. I just mean, if it's the choice, I know which one I'd rather have. I'd rather my kids know how to when it's their choice, and I know what consent is. I'd rather my kids know how they should feel. I mean, we do it at home, but obviously you want to have it reinforced in school.
You can get mental health into maths. It's like you have 20 fucks to give, and so far 18 people have taken your fucks. How many fucks do you have left to give? It's or you can do it with spoons. Yeah, you can do it obviously with spoons, but we
use spell slots because we're geeks.
Spell slots. Well, yeah, nice. I've just popped out into the chat to see if anyone has any questions for you, because I am conscious that I'm keep taking you entire afternoon here.
I'm going shopping now. Our big shop.
Is what I always like to ask? Is there anything like we've not come up? Because I mean, everything's come up organically today, literally, apart from the one thing that we circle back to. I love it; it's brilliant. This tends to happen when I speak to other neurodiverse people. It's like we don't need to have a structure. Fuck structure. But
what is structure?
Is there anything that you would like to say to? However, you said there was nearly 30 people here before. To those people plus everyone that watches it on YouTube later, plus everyone that gets it on the podcast, because this one's going to the audio version as well.
Yeah, that was only an example just for the moment, just to say you've got all these people here. I don't mean I didn't mean to be you've.
I've got a comedian on. I have to do a callback, don't you? That's how it works. You have to do callbacks.
I used to teach comedy, so I still do, because I'm still supposed to be doing it. I'm supposed to do it in June, but it never went ahead. I used to teach comedy, and actually that's how I got into helping people with mental health, because I realised that you can't really learn to be a comedian. You can learn to be a comedian, but it's more about finding out why you're funny and less about learning how to be funny. So people always think, so when they come on the course, they'd be like, teach me how to write a joke. And I'd be like, if I teach you how to write a joke specifically, I would be teaching you how to write my jokes.
Yes.
There's already a me. That's useless. You will not be able to say them in the same way as I will, and you will not be able to riff around them. You'll never be able to write another one. When I'm not around, you won't be able to write it. So I'm going to show you how to be funny and how to find out why you're funny. And what that did for me was it made me realize that we weren't teaching a comedy course. We were teaching a confidence and anti-anxiety course. So we're teaching a way how to help people deal with anxiety and how to deal with a low confidence and low self-esteem. And we, in that course, and I must have taught, I don't know, I can't remember how many I've taught now. So I've taught hundreds, and I've taught people how to be stand-ups, but most of them don't do stand-up anymore, but all of them went on to use the techniques. So then I just took those techniques and started teaching people how to use them to be confident in companies and stuff. And it all boiled down to faking it until you're making it, which I hate.
Yeah,
because
it's okay.
Fake it till you make it is not the greatest way to say it, because another way to say fake it until you make it is practice makes perfect. And no one realizes those are the same saying. Once you realize they're the same saying, it makes perfect sense. And everything takes practice. I was a recluse before I got on stage. I used to be a radio presenter who didn't see it showing his face or anything. And I used to do Warhammer, Dave. Did a lot of Warhammer.
40k.
40k. Is that why you've got elder? It looks like you've got elder runes on your arm over there.
No, that's this. No, that's
on the right arm on the muscle. Is it?
That's my left arm. This arm.
That's your left.
Oh, these.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, that's Tibetan script.
Oh, is it Tibetan script?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the Buddhist prayer on Mani Padme Hum. But no, I don't have Elder Runes. But I was a Chaos player.
There's nothing wrong with it. I literally this weekend downloaded Warhammer Total War, Dawn of War 2, Dawn of War 3, and Space Marine just to play because I love there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's not.
But no, that's what I'd say. Is that people who think they're not confident, people that think they have that they're never going to be able to confident, should practice being confident as someone else first. Pretend in your head that you are something else. We called him the Duke. That was our technique. And it was, you've got 3 steps. When you walk to the stage or wherever you're going, out the house, wherever you're going, 3 steps. Well, first step, you're you. Second step, you're half you, half Duke. Third step, you're the Duke. The Duke doesn't have any of the insecurities that you have. And you can absolutely pretend to be that. We've all done it. You can pretend to be whatever you want to be. We've all put on a voice and pretended to be something in our life. You know, that happens. And the more you do it, you just leave it behind. So the first step, you're you. You've got all that insecurity. Second step, you start to leave some of the stuff behind, and you leave everything that doesn't matter behind. You don't need to think about what you're having for dinner. You don't need to think about your kids at school. You don't need to think about your bullies from when you were a kid. You leave it all behind for that one step, and then you take the next step, and then you've left it all behind, and you just forget about it. And you imagine what you could be like if you were an arrogant bastard. And again, arrogance. I always think that arrogance is not such a bad thing. Everyone needs a touch of arrogance because you should be confident in yourself. That's it. That's what we have covered it, but that was one of the things that I was teaching. I know I've just opened it as well because I wanted to see. You said that you were going to ask a question in chat, and I just
well, you've seen Cristiano's question then, which says, how do you know what is funny? For example, some observational stories sound quite odd or even bad on paper, but on stage, the way that they tell a story of overcoming something can be quite funny and empowering.
People laugh. That's how you know when it's funny. There's no magic. There's no magic, Cristiano. There's absolutely no magic. Comedians, stand-up comics, we go and do things called open spots, which are open mic nights, which are where we train. We write the joke, you go and try it on stage, and you're not going to know first time. You have to practice. So you go like with everything. No, there's no such thing as an overnight success. That's something that in comedy they always used to say, oh, he's an overnight success. And I never met an overnight success who hadn't been going for 5 years.
Yep.
Done 2,000 gigs, or whatever, maybe not 2,000, maybe 700, 800. Yeah, so there's no such thing as an overnight success. But you can't know something's funny without saying it to someone. If you think, is this offensive? Yes, it is. Yes, it absolutely is. If you think it, yes, don't say it. That's the first rule. There's no reason to say it. People are like, oh, there's edgy comedy. Yeah, there's edgy comedy. Wait until you've been going 10 years until you start doing it. Bricklayers aren't like, oh yeah, I've started bricklaying today. Time to build an entire house. It's not. You don't get neurosurgeons starting university on their first day and going, well, I'll get the drill. That's not, you practice. So when you find out what's funny by writing something, walking up onto a stage, saying it, and people going, that's not funny. And you're going, okay, I'll go and rewrite that. And then you rewrite it. You say it to a couple of friends, you say it to some other comedians, or you say it to other people who are similar to you. Or even, I used to just say it I used to sneak it. I was a terrible person. I used to sneak my jokes into conversations.
What's terrible about that? I might potentially sneak like mental health stuff into conversation all the time. It's the only thing I know what to talk about.
Well, mate, trust me, I know that. Oh, what happened on stream? Oh, yeah. My wife's like, just can we just have a real conversation? I don't care that you watched a video with a rabbit playing bongo.
I saw that.
It's brilliant, mate. Absolutely brilliant. But what I mean is, you try it with friends, try it on stage, go and do open mic nights, open mic comedy nights. Don't do an open mic night where they're like, hey, we've just had this folk guitarist and this beat poet, now let's have a comedian, because everyone's going to be like, I am not here for that. I am not here for that. But yeah, what's funny is what makes people laugh. That's all it is. And if you think, is this offensive? Yes, don't say it. You don't need to. Think of something else. In the same way you do it, if you were in front of your nan, you wouldn't be like, is this offensive? I'll say it to my nan. You'd be like, This is probably not right for her. I won't say it. I won't say it. Just need to say that.
I think though, like a couple of things that you've said, like over the course of today, have been like, first of all, when you came into streaming, you're not starting from scratch. Even though you're starting from scratch as a streamer, you've got all that experience of being a stand-up and being in front of people that helped. I had the same thing. I'd done public speaking before that. I was a musician before all of that, and I'm just a gobby little shit. So that kind of helps. I'm like,
I'm your heritage.
Well, exactly. But that's the whole thing, is that when people are and what you said about the people that you trained in stand up, it's like this is transferable skills. I think these are all things that like I really like to kind of, when that type of thing comes up, I really like to point them out, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I couldn't make a change in my 30s or in my 40s or whatever. And it's because I'm starting from square one. And, to go a little bit, because you've got a giant Dungeons and Dragons dice behind you. It's like, was that a D20 or a D16 or something?
It's a D20. There's a D12 just here.
And the way I've often said it is, if you are starting from square one, you're rolling 2 dice, rather than like, going at it with 1 dice. You've got an advantage. You've got those transferable skills that come from other areas of your life. So it's never really starting from scratch. Even if all you've got is some contacts, some people, like you've got your audience, that you'll have found that some of your stand-up audience came over here. Some of my fitness audience came from me with me when I went from fitness to mindset. Some of that mindset audience were my first few people when I actually started over here. In fact, Miracle Prawn, aka Lydia, is one of such people. She was one of my first 3 viewers back when I only had 3. So.
But they were there, and that's exactly the point. Is they showed up. If I always used to compare it to stand-up. If I was trying out new material, which is what I was doing, trying out new material, and 3 people showed up, more than enough. You only need the rule we have for performing as a comedian is double plus 1. So you need however many performers there are, double that plus 1 as an audience. So if there's you, that means 3 people is an adequate audience and absolutely enough for you to have a good show. If any less than that and it starts getting a little bit weird, especially if it's a couple, because they look at each other, is this funny? Am I allowed to laugh at that? You're allowed to laugh at that.
I love that. You must have had it though, like the idea that when people do, when they're in a couple, like you might have had, I don't know if you've had the same people in an audience where a guy who's come with his mates versus the same guy who's come with his girlfriend. I've
got a story for you. Right.
And then I'm kicking you out because I know you've got stuff to do. But
do you know who Adam Kay is?
No, he's not Peter Kay's brother or something.
No, Adam Kay is. He wrote the book "Tell Me When It Hurts."
Oh yes, okay, I do know that. I know that book. Yeah. This is gonna hurt. Sorry.
Pardon? Oh yeah, this is gonna hurt. Yeah,
this is gonna. Yeah.
He's he is a lovely man, but he's a comedian. So he used to do. He'd read bits of his book before it was published. He'd read bits of his book, and in between that, he'd do funny songs, like he'd do like mixed up songs. And I had him at the Wolverhampton Grand. I was emceeing, and he was the final act. And there was a group of men there was like 30 people. It was a full room, but it was only there was only 30 seats. So we had like 30 people in this room, and there was a table of about 15 to 20 people here over the corner, and it was just men. And they'd just been silent the whole time. And for the whole gig. And I thought, they're just a hard audience. They're just hard. Whatever they are, they're hard. Anyway, so Adam Kay gets annoyed with them because they're just not laughing. He's like, I don't understand why you're not laughing. What's going on? And the man turns around, one of them, and goes, it's a stag do. And Adam goes, so? And he goes, we've bet each other that if the first person to laugh has to buy all the drinks. It's like, why are you at a comedy gig? Why are you at a comedy gig? Why are you taking up 2/3 of the room at a comedy gig? Oh, it was just so bad. But that's what I mean, is you don't want... sometimes it's okay when it's... I've done, like, corporate work is, like, my biggest thing. And it's sometimes great. I did a load of stuff at Google, and they have this great ideology where everyone is just so happy. I've loads of my best friends because I went from Google, just people that I met through Google. And because they're just all like, yeah, everyone let's have a great time. We used to do so many weird things. They got me dressed up as Jon Snow from Game of Thrones and stuff like that. But then other times you go to a company. I went and did one for a cable company, and because they all had like this kind of manly, masculine, well, if I laugh, I'm weak, and if he laughs, he's weak kind of thing. And you just perform to Stony Silent, and it's that like group mentality. So sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But yeah, that was Adam Kay getting angry at a stag do because they just, if you buy the first drink, you have to. Shut up, mate. What the hell's wrong with you? You got like one of the like best authors in the world for comedy performing in a room to 30 people in, because it's the Wolverhampton Grand, behind a grand piano. This is amazing. This is like the kind of gig people talk. You go, I saw that guy like the year before because he was already famous, but I was like, the year before he never did stand up again. Oh, I saw that. That's the kind of, and this guy's sitting there, shut up, mate, just relax. Who cares?
Did they ever laugh?
I can't remember. But I think so. Yeah, I think after that. But yeah, I have performed.
I'd have been there frantically writing that into my routine. Like,
I've told that story. But I have performed to 2 people, and it's been one of the best gigs I've ever done. And I've performed to 400 people, and I've hated it. So it's really not about. That's actually something I think people should learn. The room is never the important bit. You are. Whatever room you're in, it's not who's there, it's the energy you put into it.
Yeah.
You can only ever get back the energy you put into something. That's one of the things that really has carried over from comedy, is you can't expect people to enjoy something if you're not. Yeah. You can't expect anyone to react positively if you're not. So you walk into a room and you're looking at it and you think, this is going to be terrible. You're absolutely right. The moment you say this is going to be terrible, you're absolutely right. The person that says this is going to be great and the person that says this is going to be terrible are both right in the same room. And that is something that I learned from comedy. Is I'd look at the 400 and I think, I'm going to have a bad gig. And I'd have a bad gig. And then I'd walk in, I'd see 2 people, and I'd be like, I'm just feeling like it today. We have a great gig, and I'd have a great gig. And it is all on you. And that's not just about comedy. That's public speaking. That's your workplace. You walk into your workplace and you go, I'm going to have a great day. You'll have a great day. Because you can just find the positive in whatever you want to do. Find the silver lining. But that was one of the take homes. The silver lining. I've really got to, because I used to hide my age when I was when I did stand up. I used to hide it because there's a big stigma about being over 30. But now I'm like, I am much older. I'm 765. But I like all of this. This was none of this though. I used to be all covered up, but now I just wear what I'm ever comfortable in. Lots of pink.
Which is awesome. What you just said about the play into the audience that's there and stuff, it's something that I realized back when I was a musician years and years and years ago, was the fact that if you either, it's not like you're going to drag anyone else into the room at that exact point anyway, so you just may as well go out and have fun. But what I noticed with social media was, if the numbers weren't where I wanted them to be, like this was back when I was looking and obsessing over them, if they weren't where I wanted them to be, it either caused me to get desperate or despondent, were the 2 things. Desperate meant that I'll do anything for attention. That possibly maybe where Thirsty But Worthy came from. I don't know. I can't confirm. But it means I'll put out a piece of content that's like just to get another shot, just to have another shot. Like I didn't like how many of my content's gone this week, so I'm going to just throw something out, like the quickest thing ever that I think's going to be funny, and I won't even think it through. I'll just get it out there. That's the desperate behavior. Or the despondent behavior is, screw this, I'm not putting anything out. I'm like, that's it, I'm done. I can't even be bothered being here. And again, it's like, that's both of those behaviors. Neither one of those behaviors is going to get you the result that you want. They're actually gonna, as you said, getting in there, just treating it like I'm going to enjoy it. What does it matter? Like, is that if there's only one person watching it, should they not enjoy it? Like, it's like,
don't punish the people that show up.
You don't punish the people who show up for the people that don't.
Exactly. That's what, and that I absolutely can say I have got a social media addiction, and it's because it's been part of my job, and I had to. And I don't think I had to have the addiction, but what I mean is I had to be very reactive on it. And I have been absolutely guilty of punishing people for showing up. Oh, there's only, like when I was younger, in my first 2 years of comedy, there's only 5 people in this room. Whereas now I'm like, screw it. However many show up. That's why I used to perform to a bloody phone in my dining room and later a phone in my kitchen, because I was like, I have to say that I did used to do a daily news show at 7:30 every morning, and between 7 and 7:30, and I stopped doing it because there was only one person that showed up. But I did it for 4 months. So it started off with 10 people, and I thought this will grow. And it was only one. And it was because it was between 7 and 7:30 in the morning, and people are getting ready for work. And this is, no one wants to hear British news from a comedian at 7 a.m. on a weekday morning. And again, you shouldn't be afraid to abandon things that aren't working. Yeah. You shouldn't be afraid to let things go. People are like we were taught by the generation before us, you got to work at stuff. Work, grind. Nah, fuck it, mate. You haven't got time. Sever that limb. Get rid of it. It's got gangrene. That's it. You gotta know when to quit. It's okay to do that.
Absolutely. Awesome. Right. Well, I think that's a perfect point for us to not quit, but like draw this interview to a close. Chris, it's been awesome. I think I asked 2 questions. It's like, sorry,
buddy.
Don't know. That's a good thing. Like, I think, honestly, it's just felt easy and natural. Like, I felt, and I do what I do remember from the marathon stream. I did remember that, like, as tired as I was, you made that hour very, very easy for me and stuff. And it's great to kind of like, and me and you have an absolute bunch of similarities, which is quite nice to bounce off and stuff. And I love your stream. I love your ethos. I love you. I think you're great. And I've outwardly referred to you as my favorite mental health streamer a bunch of times, and literally no one else has had me say that. So it's not like you can say, yeah, but you said it to him as well. But thank you.
No, I wouldn't even know. How would I? You could say it to everyone else, like I do with my kids.
I say it to you publicly on Twitter. That's when you know it's real.
That's when I know it's real. I don't actually say it.
Everyone in chat, if we can have some exclamation mark love, exclamation mark hype, maybe even some exclamation mark thirsty for Chris.